Time for the tropical update. When you consider what we've seen so far this season, it's really been something. We started off pretty active early in the season, and then around July 2nd and 3rd, Colin developed. After Colin went away, and it was just there for a day, literally popped up and was gone as a tropical storm, we went quiet. Through the rest of July and all of August, there was nothing that really developed. Then into September, we had Danielle, we had Earl, we had Fiona, and we have Gaston. These two still churning out there in the Atlantic. We may have Hermine developing later today or within the next 24 hours, early Saturday. It's potentially going to come together. We now have Tropical Depression number 9 and a very good chance. The Hurricane Center is calling for that development. We're going to check on that in just a moment. Two other areas that we are not going to spend that much time on. This one has a 30% chance of development over the next 5 days, maybe a little better chance beyond that, so we're keeping an eye to it. This one, a 70% chance, but it's going to stay on the other side of the Atlantic. So let's focus on our three systems that we are actively tracking right now that have had greater impacts. First of all, here's Fiona now passing north of Bermuda and moving off to the north-northeast pretty quickly. This thing is far away from our coast, but it's been sending the waves back to our area. You see that location, now a Category 3 hurricane. It's weakened a little bit overnight, but it's been sending these large waves back to our area. So even with it being hundreds of miles off to the east and racing off to the north, we're still dealing with rough surf today. 7 to 9 feet. We do have a high surf advisory along our coast. We have strong rip currents out there and some potential for some beach erosion. So we're watching that. The 8 o'clock update on Fiona showing that movement off to the north-northeast at about 25 miles per hour. It's going to run up, staying to the east of Halifax, hitting Nova Scotia and eventually Newfoundland. We'll watch for that later into the weekend, and early next week it'll exit off to the north. For the Azores, they've been watching this system here. This is Gaston, and you can see, again, the warnings out for the Azores. It is going to kind of wrap back around, become an area of low pressure, and eventually get caught up into something else, another front coming through. So not real worried about that one either. Down here in the Caribbean, this is our next system that we are more concerned with. This is Tropical Depression number 9. Now, the 5 o'clock update on this depression called for some strengthening. As I mentioned, it should become Hermine later today or possibly overnight into early Saturday morning. We'll see. It is looking healthier right now. It's going to turn eventually to the northwest and should come back to the north, bringing it towards Cuba, western Cuba. After that, it may make a run towards Florida, possibly crossing Florida, maybe curving back off to the east, possibly coming up through the southeast U.S. or maybe right along the coast. So we're going to have to wait and see. You can see the hurricane models here show pretty good grouping through here, bringing it towards western Cuba. So we're going to need to watch that, crossing it over, bringing it past the Keys and then up towards Florida. So there's a high likelihood that this is going to be the path it takes, but there's some question as to where it goes after that. And I want to break this down with our longer range, the global forecast models that we look at here. Two of them, the Euro is in red, the GFS is in yellow, and you can see how the two are bringing the system along again. Pretty similar paths towards western Cuba as we get into Monday evening. The GFS a little stronger, the Euro taking a little bit longer to get it better organized and stronger, but both bring it across Cuba. After that, we head into Tuesday late afternoon and evening. The Euro's over the Keys. The GFS model, the American model, stronger and over the eastern Gulf. It then runs it towards Florida. The Euro brings it across South Florida. The GFS still has it positioned just out over the Gulf Coast, or along the Gulf Coast of Florida and just out over the water. This is Wednesday morning. This is where things get a lot different. The Euro accelerates it to the northeast. The GFS, the American model, brings it across Florida. This is Thursday morning now. In this case, now we're watching as the waves, the winds are starting to pick up around the Outer Banks, and you can see what happens here. By Friday morning, the Euro has this as a strong system right on our coast. So we need to watch that. It will continue racing off to the northeast. The GFS, meanwhile, decides it's going to take its time. It's farther south. In this case, we're not feeling any impacts yet. So if the Euro's right, windy, wet, we could have some tidal issues, some coastal flooding maybe. If the GFS is right, we're still not seeing anything. It's too early to know which of these plays out. The Euro then accelerates off to the northeast. The GFS eventually spreads some tropical moisture, some rain back up into the area. So what can we take away from all of this? Well, again, the bottom line, it is too early to know exactly how things will go with this tropical depression number 9. The chances are there, though, for us to receive some tropical rain with both of those solutions. They do bring some tropical rain here by the end of next week. The Euro would bring it a little earlier. The GFS maybe next Saturday or Sunday. We're going to have to keep a close eye to it, and I can't stress this enough. Things may change. You've got to stay tuned for updates, and we'll do that. We'll keep you posted right here at 13 News Now.